Hello, welcome to this session that will show you how to use the EndNote 20 software. My name's Sam Johnson and I'm one of the academic support librarians at the library. So the EndNote software is a really useful bit of software, and what it allows you to do is, whilst you're doing your research and finding lots of different references, EndNote is just a way of managing all those references. So essentially it just allows you to create your own database of all the references that you found whilst you've been searching. So that could be journal articles, it could be books, it could be chapters in a book, it could be a report, it could be a podcast or a blog post, something like that. So the aim of EndNote is that you put all of that content into EndNote and then it's all stored and saved in one place. So it's really easy for you to re-find those references when you start to write your various documents. The really clever bit with EndNote is that it links with Word. So once you've got all those references into your account, you can then go to Word, you can start writing your various documents and assignments. And then what you can do is you can then insert a reference at the point where you need to do that. And then you can also tell the software what referencing style you want to use. So if you don't know what referencing style you need to use, then check back with your supervisor or with the department and they will be able to give you advice on that. In the session today, I'm going to stick with using just a Harvard style of referencing, but I will show you how you can switch between different referencing styles. So this is our EndNote homepage. It sits on the library homepage under the heading there for students, and then EndNote there. So you've got welcome information at the top there. If you need any help, then that's the web address there, endnoteweb@warwick.ac.uk. Then we've also got a link there to the IT help desk as well. So I'm going to show you in a minute where you download the software from. If you have problems installing the software, then you'll need to go back to IT services for help and advice. If once you start using the software, you have problems using the software and something's not working correctly or you're not too sure what to do, that's when you need to contact the library. Okay, so you can email us on endnoteweb@warwick.ac.uk, or you can just email us at library@warwick.ac.uk, and that will get through to those of us who deal with the EndNote inquiry. So that's all about help. If you come down here, okay, there's a little bit of information there about what EndNote does. And then we have got two versions of the software. So the one we're going to have a look at this, in this session is the desktop version. That gives you much more functionality. The online version is a cloud-based version of the software, and you can register for that. It's free. You don't need to pay for that. For that one, it is free. The desktop version is associated with the license that the university pays for. So if I just click on that option there for EndNote desktop, you can see there it will tell you where you can download the desktop version from. Okay, so we're using EndNote 20 today. You will see a link to EndNote X9, which was the previous version, but I would recommend that you download EndNote 20. And then you've got a recording there, this recording, you can link to that from there. And then down here we've got various additional things that you may want to come back and have a look at, and I'll have a look at some of these in the session. But installing the Harvard style of referencing, I'm going to concentrate on Harvard today. If you are using the Harvard style of referencing, then just check with your supervisor, or just get an example of what the Harvard referencing style looks like. So the golden rule of referencing, and what people like myself will tell you, is to be consistent. That's the golden rule of referencing. However, with Harvard, there are lots of different versions of Harvard, and universities and organisations like to tweak the formatting of the style. So the university does not have a single referencing style that it wants everybody to use. Each department and school is free to promote their own referencing style. Okay, that also means that there's no Harvard recognised style at Warwick either. However, this style here, which we'll have a look at later on, is a style, it's called Harvard Warwick WMS. That's the style that the medical school uses. That's the school that I work most closely with. So if you like, this has become a sort of a de facto Warwick style, but it's not an official Warwick style. I know the business school are using it, use it in life sciences as well, and I think Warwick WMG. So it is used. It's not an official style. Having said that, I've never had anybody come back to me saying I used that style and I got into trouble because it was the wrong Harvard style. Okay, but we'll have a look at how the Harvard style changes. But because this is a locally designed style, you will need to download this file to your own machines. Okay, so we'll come back to that later on. And the other thing we'll have a look at is that there is a way within EndNote where you can find full text of papers. So I'll come back and do that later on as well. And just while I'm on this page, right at the very top here, okay, you can see there's a little tab here about importing references. So one of the things we'll have a look at in the session is how you send references from a database search that you've done, how you send those into your EndNote account. So this page here is just a page of instructions for some of the key databases. So if you're doing this subsequently and you just need a bit of a reminder, a bit of help, then you can come down here, find the database that you're using, and it will give you the instructions. Okay, but any help with that at any point, then you're more than welcome to email us, and we will get back to you. So that's the EndNote homepage. Okay, so what I want to do then is start showing you how the EndNote system works. Once you've downloaded it onto your machine, you need to open it. So mine is sitting just here, okay, and that opens. And the very first time you open the account, it will ask you whether you want to create a new account or a new library, so not an account, a library, or open an existing one. Now I've already got an account here, so mine was already open. So you have two options, and then you need to create a new library. You need to think about where you're going to save that library to. So if I just come up here and go into File and then create a new library, okay, it will ask you where you want to save the library to. Now, EndNote doesn't like being saved to a network drive. So if you are using a university machine, this can be quite a little bit problematic, because I'm on a university laptop now. So the desktop is effectively a network drive. I've got a network drive here, I've got a H drive and an M drive, so they're all network drives. And EndNote doesn't especially like being saved onto a network drive. So if you are using a university machine, then the advice is to save it into the documents folder, okay? What you need to be aware of there, of course, is that won't be backed up, so you need to make sure that you're keeping a backup of your EndNote library. If it's your own machine, then obviously you can keep it wherever you want, so you could put it onto the desktop, okay, or if you've got a various drive, you could do that as well, okay. But it doesn't like being on network drive. It also doesn't like being saved in the cloud either. So it does mean that you will need to make a backup copy of your library, and I can show you a way of doing that. But again, if you're on your own machine, you could perhaps use an external drive and make sure you've got a backup copy. Okay. The other thing that you need to be aware of when you create an account is, okay, I can say here I'm going to put it into my documents folder, and it will ask you to give it a name. So I'm just going to do library test for now. You can see here, these are libraries that I've already created, but when you create an EndNote library, it actually creates two files. So this is the sort of the library file, but if I scroll down here, can you see, not that easy to see, keep coming down, okay, oh, some of these yellow folders, here we go, can you see where it's saying testing data, Bob data, Galway sync data, anything with that data extension? That's the other half of the EndNote library. So when you create an EndNote account, you've got a library file and you've got a data file. And if you move these files, you have to move both files, okay? Otherwise the library won't open. So bear that in mind when you are taking a backup of the library. There is a way where you can compress the two files together, and I'll show you how to do that later on. But be aware that it creates these two files, and quite often people see this top file because that's the obvious one, and it's kind of a slightly prettier looking one as well. Okay, and they see that and they think, oh yeah, there's my EndNote library, and that's what they send to a colleague, or that's what they move on to another drive or another computer, and then the library won't open. Okay, so you've got these two files that you need to be aware of. So that's creating a new library. I'm just going to close that because I already have a library open here already. Okay, so this is my EndNote library. So just to show you around the main screen here, in the middle you can see the references that I've already got in my account. So you can see here you've got various headings across the top. These are all fully customizable, so you can have whatever headings you want and in whatever order. But you can see there I've got details to do with author, year, title, the reference. Mine are all journal articles, but you might have books or conference papers or podcasts. And then it also tells me here where which journal it's from. If I just scroll across a little bit, you can see here I've added in some extra columns here. So this isn't the default setting. So if I just right click on one of those headings, these are all the different headings that you can select from, and that's what will display in this middle part of the screen. So you can have it set up however you want it set up. I've got volume number and pages. I get involved in very big searches, and we want to get rid of duplicate references, and actually being able to look at the numerical data is actually a quicker way of being able to identify duplicates more often than not. So that's why I have volume number and issue page numbers there. So that's setting up the front screen there. If I click on one of the papers, okay, you can see here, okay, you get sort of a preview of that on the screen. So you've got various views here. So this is a summary view, and you can see for this particular reference I've actually got the PDF, the full text PDF attached as well. Okay, so I'll come back to that in a minute. So this is the reference there. So I can scroll down there. So I've got the title, okay, the authors. Come down here, okay, and I just get the summary, the abstract of the paper. If I click on the edit option, okay, you can see here this now breaks it down into the different component parts, okay, and I can go and I can edit this. So if I suddenly discover that I'm missing page numbers or a volume number, or want to add something in, then this is all editable. So you can click on there and you can edit any of that content. And because I've got the PDF saved with this record, if I click on the PDF, here's the PDF document there. Okay, you can see it there. You can open that in another window there. Okay, and you've got various all the annotation tools that you can use are just here. So you can mark up and annotate that PDF within EndNote or within a new window. Okay, if I come back over here to the main window and move along, can you see some of the references have got a paperclip next to them, and that indicates that the full text of the paper is within the EndNote library. Now, as a general rule, when you send content and references across to EndNote, it won't automatically take the PDF. Okay, so adding the PDF in is a separate stage that I'll show you later on. You might be sat there thinking, well, actually, I've got a whole heap of PDFs already saved on my computer. Is there any way that I can import those into EndNote? And the good news is that yes, you can. So again, we'll come back and have a look at that later on. So you can pull in the full text of the papers. So just to come back over here and look at the summary, if I scroll down there, the bottom page here, if you try and pull that up, We're going to go. That tells you the referencing style that you are using. There we go. So this gives you a preview. So you can see here I'm using this Harvard Warwick WMS style. If I click on that drop down, you can see there's lots of other different styles there that you can choose from. Okay, but this just gives you a preview of how the reference will look in your selected referencing style. Okay, and we'll have a look at that more when we go into Word as well. Over here on the left hand side, this is kind of like the management bit of your library. So it's telling me here that I have got 50 references in my account. Okay, I have a Word document open at the moment, and I've got 2 references embedded into my Word document. It's telling me here that I've recently added these 50 references because I've just done that before this session. Okay, I've got no references in the unfiled folder, and I've got no references in the trash folder either. Okay, but what you can see here is that I've created some groups. Okay, so I've got one group that I've called asthma, and I've got one group that I've called climate change. Okay, so as you add content to your account, you don't have to create groups. You could just put everything into all references and you just have one big library, or you can subdivide them up and put them into different groups. Okay, and a new thing with software with EndNote 20, can you see here I can now open different tabs. So if I click on there we go, that's moved it across, and now I can see those 25 references that are in my my asthma group. This is all references there. So not been very responsive. Okay, and then what I can do here is I can add another tab in there. That's gone back, so I'll go back to all references. But if I go into climate change and then right click, open a new tab, so now you can see on the top there I've got climate change tab, I've got all references, and I've got asthma as well. So it just builds a bit more flexibility into the search. So that's an overview of what EndNote looks like. I mentioned earlier on that the really clever thing with EndNote is that it links with Word. So what I wanted to do is just very quickly show you how it works with Word, and then we'll come back and look at how you can add references into the account. So I have Word open already here. Okay, so there's my Word document. When you install the desktop version, what should happen is that you should see this EndNote 20 toolbar should appear as if by magic in your version of Word. Okay, sometimes it doesn't. If it doesn't, then that's a problem with the add-ins. Okay, so let us know and we can and help you through that. It's usually just a bit of jiggery pokery in the technical side of things, and we can get the EndNote toolbar displaying for you there. Okay, lots going on the toolbar. We're not going to go through all of it now, just the main bits. What I would say is here, where this option here, make sure the instant formatting is on. Sometimes it's the default appears to be off, which I don't really understand because it's not that helpful. But make sure your instant formatting is set to on. And then just here, this is where you can select the style. So if I click on the drop down there, okay, these are the styles that I've sort of played around with. So I've got sort of my default sort of own sort of favorites list there. But if I click on select another style, there are hundreds and hundreds to choose from. I didn't do that. Why did that not do that? Oh no, there we go. It's just being a bit slow. So you can see there's lots of different styles. Okay. Now if I come down to Harvard, okay, you can see there we've got 2 versions. So at the moment you will see this version of Harvard, which is the default version of Harvard that comes with the software. I've installed the Harvard Warwick WMS style, so I see that one as well. Okay, I'll go back and show you how to install that later on. So at the moment, if I just click on the Warwick style, so I've added these references into my Word document, and this is how the Harvard style looks. Okay, yeah. So you can see here I've added some references in, and I've got the in-text citation here, and then I've got the reference list started here. So if I want to add another reference, type away. Okay, I get to the point where I want to insert a reference, and up here, okay, I've got an insert reference box. So I click on there, and I've got the option here to insert a reference. And then this takes me to a dialog box that will pop up. There we go, just being a bit slow. So what happens here, the very first time that you do it, you get this blank box, okay, and people think that something's gone wrong. But at this point, EndNote wants to know what information, what reference you want to add into your account. So because I've added a reference in previously, it's been a bit slow this afternoon, it's now inputted all those references. But the very first time that you do this, you'll get a blank screen, and you might think that something has not quite worked. So you have to put some information in there to find a reference. So you can see here, I've just done a search for climate because I've got some climate change references in my account. So it pulls back all the references with the climate somewhere in the reference. Okay. Equally, if I know I'm looking for the reference by Hyam or by Foo, then I can search by an author name. So you can search by any criteria that you want. So if I decide I want this paper here, I can just double click on that paper. Okay, and you can see there it's starting to add that into the document. Okay, so there's the references has been added in. So I've got 3 references here. I'm just going to drop that down a bit, but you can see because I'm in a Harvard style of referencing, it's generated the reference list and it's automatically put it into alphabetical order for me. Okay, all of these references, you can see I've got the et al, so that just means I've got more than 3 authors, and it will automatically put the et al in for me. And this version of Harvard likes et al in italics and a full stop and then a comma. So it does all that formatting for you. So hopefully you can see that it will save you time. Okay. What I would say about EndNote is that you do have to commit a bit of time to it. It can be very frustrating at times, and it can seem that you're wasting a lot of time. And you might start thinking, well, wouldn't it just be quicker to do this by hand? Okay. It's just one of those bits of software that you have to persevere with, okay? And if you can get to grips with it, then it will save you time. But it's a bit like climbing a mountain, a very steep mountain. You're halfway up and you just think, is it really worth it? But when you get to the top, the view is lovely, okay? And you think, I'm glad I did that. So hopefully that's kind of the mentality that I would have with EndNote, okay? So come back and ask us any questions as you're going along. It's often better to sort of do a bit, have a question, come back, ask, and then do a bit more. Okay, so do persevere with it. So you can see there that's added that reference into my document. If I were then to change here, and I've got Harvard here already, if I were to change that to Harvard, if you just watch the references at the bottom, you will see that they will reformat. So this is still Harvard, but you can see there the references look very different. So if you are using Harvard, it's worth just going and asking and just checking what referencing style you need to use. Okay, some academics aren't too bothered which style it is, as long as it looks like Harvard. Other academics are quite pedantic in what style they want. To be honest, I think most academics don't realise that there's different versions of Harvard out there. They use the version of Harvard that they're familiar with, and they just assume that is Harvard. Okay, but you can see there's quite a difference between the referencing style. So decide which one perhaps you prefer, or check what is recommended on your from your department. Okay, so I'm just going to switch back to the other version of Harvard, and then I'm set for next time when I come back into Word. So I'm going to leave Word there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into EndNote and just have a look at how we add references to the account. So there's different ways in which you can do this. Sort of the traditional way, the obvious way to me, is that if you are searching different databases, even things like Google Scholar. Okay, when you've got to the point of finding references that are relevant, then at that point you can export the references to your EndNote account. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. Not everything that you find online you'll have the option to export. So if you find say a report from a charity, okay, it might be available as a PDF, but there's no way of exporting that data into your account. So there is an option to add a reference manually. Hopefully you won't need to do that very often. Okay, some of you may never need to do that, but that is another way of getting reference into your account. The other way that I mentioned earlier on is that if you have got some PDFs sat on your on a drive somewhere, then you can import the PDFs into your account. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. It depends on the PDF. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go back onto the library homepage and just show you two different ways of getting the references across. So I'm going back to the library homepage. I'm going to use two databases, Google Scholar that I've already mentioned, okay, and another database called Web of Science. Now, Web of Science is a broad multidisciplinary database, so it covers most subject areas. What I would recommend that you do is find out who your academic support librarian is. So that's what I am and the team of us. If you come under this option here for subject support, okay, and down here you'll see we've got a list here of the different departments. So I'll just click on mine for now. If I click on there, what it will do will show you my picture and my contact details. Okay, we also provide links to different databases and online tutorials. Now these pages will be changing at some point during the next few weeks and months, but the content will be very much the same. But the main thing you'll be able to do is find out who your academic support librarian is. So if you don't know who that is and you need any help with searching or referencing, then they're a brilliant person to contact. Okay, so you can contact them and they'll be able to give you help and advice in your particular subject area. Okay, I'm going to come back from there. I want to search for a particular database, so I could come under here for databases, but I know that I want to search for Web of Science today. So I'm just going to search for this database. Okay, and then click on there to sign in. There we go. Okay, so this is Web of Science. If you've searched this before, it's had a bit of a revamp. Okay, so it's looking very purpley now as opposed to blue. So what I want to do is just run a very quick search. So I want to look for something to do with globalization within higher education. So I'm going to put some search terms in. So I'm going to search for higher education, or it could be something to do with university or universities. So I've put higher education into quotation marks. That means it will search for that as a phrase. Okay, and I've got universit with a star or an asterisk at the end, so that will look for university or universities. So they're both search tips that will work in really in any database. Okay, what I want to do now is to add a row. Okay, and now I'm going to say, well, I'm interested in sort of globalization, so I could just put a star there, and then global would pick up global or globally or globalization spelled both ways. Okay, or I could be talking, you could think, well, it could be worldwide. Of course, the problem with something like worldwide is it might have a hyphen in it, or it might be something we could say internationalization. Okay, so can you see how you can build that search up? You can also decide where you want to search. Okay, so I can do all fields, or I might just do topic. So I'm just going to switch that one to topic and that one as well. So build my search up. Okay, and then I can just click on search. So this is a very broad search today, 91,000 references. You need to do a bit of work on getting that down a little bit. But what I want to do now is to show you how to get those references into EndNote. And can you see at the top there, you've got this export button. So at this point in your searches, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for the option to export references or to download to a citation manager. Okay, so I am just going to mark there. So I've marked all. I've got, and that's marked 50 references are on this page. So I'm just going to take those 50 references. And then if I click on the drop down box, you can see that it's giving me different options. Now, in this example, I want EndNote desktop. Okay, it's making a distinction between the desktop and the online version. In other databases, when you click on the export option, you'll get different options here, but there will always be one that indicates using with EndNote. Okay, so it will be there. Sometimes there's a generic one for RIS, and an afterward it will say RIS bracket, and it will include EndNote within the bracket. So EndNote is the one that you're looking for. And in this one, I particularly want EndNote desktop. Okay, so it comes down here and it just double checks what you have selected. So I've selected 50. Okay, I can take all records on the page, or I can take a particular number of references. Now, actually, what I am going to do, I'm going to see, I'm just going to change it. I'm not going to take 1,000. I'm going to take 10 because it will just speed things up a little bit. Okay. And then in this drop down here, what I would do is I would take that one there for the abstract. The full record is not the full text, it's not the PDF, okay? It's the abstract plus all the coding and the cataloguing and the classification that librarians and cataloguers put on the record. So it's quite interesting, it's quite useful, but you don't need it in your EndNote account, okay? So I would just take that one there. You see the option for abstract, I would take that one. So let's do that. And then click on the export button. Okay, and can you see there it's dropped that file down into my downloads folder, and if I just click on there, it will automatically import those references into my EndNote account. So here they come. That's why I only did 10 to speed things up a bit. So now I've got a tab here that's saying imported references 10 and unfiled references 10 because I haven't put them into a group. Okay, so what I could do now, I could have a look at those. Okay, these are the references here. Now, if I want to move those into a group, what I do is I select one of the references. There we go. Okay, and then if you do Control and A at this point, it will select all of the references. Okay, and then if you right click, okay, you've got the option here and you can add references to. So I can either add to an existing group, okay, if I want to do that, or I can create a custom group. So I'm going to create a new group. Okay, so you can see there now, okay, here's my new group with the 10 references in. If I click on there, I can rename the group. Nope, sorry, that's gone to the wrong bit. I want to go there. I should just be able to. There we go. If I just double click, so I'm going to call this one okay, so that's renamed that group. My 10 references are now in there. Okay, you can see now they've come out of the unfiled folder because I put them into this folder, but they're still in the imported references, so they will stay there, and the next search that I do that imports the next set of references, that group will be overwritten. Okay, so that's not a static group, that's constantly overwritten each time you add new references into the into the account. Okay, so that's adding in references from Web of Science. Okay, so that's fine. Now, just before we move on to Google Scholar, I did just want to digress again. Okay, and can you see when you're in Web of Science, you've got this Web Bridge button. So what the Web Bridge button will do, the Web Bridge button will tell you whether we have full text access to the paper or not. Okay, so I'm going to come down and see if I can get one. Well, let's try that one there. I'm going to click on the web bridge button. Okay, this one's come back and it said that the paper isn't available online. Okay, what I would actually do at this point is that I would copy and paste the title and put that into Google Scholar and see if it's available freely online. Okay, now at the moment, if you're doing this, if we didn't have the paper, you could also request a copy through this service called Article Reach. Now, I'm recording this just before term starts, and we are launching a new service called Get It To You for the start of term. Okay, so at this point, if we don't have the full text available, you will be signposted to this new service, Get It For You. You'll just need to fill in a request form, send that off, and then we will aim to get that article for you. Okay, so I'm a bit ahead of the game today, but that is what will happen. Let me see if I can find. I'm just going to try that one there. If I click web bridge for this one, so this one is come back, and we should have electronic access to this paper. So I'm not going to click on the link now, but if you were to click on that link there, that should let you through into the full text of this paper. You may have to sign in so that it knows that you're a Warwick person, but that will let you through and you'll get the full text of the paper. Okay, so that's just a bit of a digression. It's often something that people aren't aware of. So the other service that I wanted to show you was Google Scholar. I don't have a particular issue with Google Scholar as long as you're searching it with something else. So if you tell me that the only thing that you've searched for or you've searched in is Google Scholar for your literature search, I would be very worried about that. Okay, if you tell me you've searched different databases and you've also had a quick look in Google Scholar, absolutely fine, don't have a problem with that. And actually Google Scholar is really good when you're starting out on a search, okay, because you can just throw some keyword at it and it will perhaps just give you some ideas and some direction about where you want to go. It's also very good at the end of the process when you've done your search and maybe you are looking for the full text of some papers. Then again, it's a really good way of finding full text. But it's not somewhere that I would recommend that you go for the bulk of your literature searching. Okay, go back to our subject pages, have a look at our list of databases and try and find a database that's relevant to your subject area. So what I can do here, if I do the same search again, okay, so it goes away and it finds some references. So these are references that it's found here. Now, can you see down here, this one here is telling me I've got PDF access through Springer open, so that's freely available. I can just click on that and get access. This one here, I've got a PDF from this website, but I've also got something here called Warwick Access. This one just here, okay, I've only got Warwick Access option here. Now the Warwick Access is just, if I click on it, is just the web bridge button, okay? So we've embedded the web bridge button into into Google Scholar. So I'm seeing that today because I've changed a setting in Google Scholar, okay? So what you will need to do to see that Warwick Access link, what you have to do is come over here to the three horizontal lines, go to settings, and then go to library links. And can you see here, I've got University of Warwick Library set up here. So if you literally just type in Warwick and search, it comes back, it finds us, it also finds the library at Warwick Hospital, but you click the ones that you've got access to. So really you just need to choose the one for Warwick Library there. Open World Cat is a collection of international library catalogues. Actually not that useful in the grand scheme of things, I have to say. I never find it especially useful. So I've got it selected, I'm not entirely sure why, but you just really need this one for University of Warwick Library. Click on save, and then the next time you run a search in Google Scholar, you'll see those Warwick Access links there, okay? And that's a quick way through into the full text. However, we want to send these across into our EndNote account. If you have a Google account, okay, what you can do is you can click on that star and it will add the reference to your library. Good news, it looks like I'm signed in, so that's good. I didn't think I was signed in, but obviously I am. So what I can do here is I can come down here and I can select various references, okay, and they will add that to my library. Sometimes here you'll notice these are all journal articles, but occasionally you do find some that are gone too far, it'll tell you it's a book, okay, and Google Scholar is not actually very good at sending books across, so just make sure it's not a book that you've selected. So I've selected those three. If I now come over here to the right into my library, okay, those three references that I added, I obviously had some in here previously as well, so I've now got 6 items in my library. I can come here, I can either select all of them, or I can select the 3 that I've just added across. Okay, if you scroll across the icons, this one here is telling that you can, that's where you export the references. So click on there. Now you can see again a much shorter list here than the ones that we had in Web of Science, but there's a really obvious one for EndNote. So click on the option for EndNote. And you can see it's exactly the same again. Drop that down into the downloads. So again, if I click on that, it will just import those references into the EndNote library. Okay, so there are the three references there, so that's fine. So I'm going to select one reference. There we go. Control A again. Right click. And I'm going to add these references to, and this time I'm going to send them to the higher education folder. Okay, so again, I've now got 3 imported references. My unfiled folder is empty again, and I've now got 13 references in my higher education folder. Okay, so I'm starting to build up my EndNote library. So that's kind of the traditional way, the more obvious way of getting references into your account, but there are other ways that I've mentioned. So it might be that you found something online, so it could be a blog post or a newspaper article or a report, and there's no obvious way of exporting it to EndNote. So the databases are very good at that, and they're set up to do that. But if you go outside the database, you tend to find that it's quite difficult to do. So what you can do is you can manually add a reference. So up on the menu bar on the top, there's an option at the table there for references, and then I can add a new reference. And you get this quite long form to fill in. The good news is that most of it you won't have to fill in, but you can see there it's quite extensive. So the very first thing to do is to tell EndNote what it is that you are adding. So it's defaulted to the reference type to journal article, but if I click on that drop down, you can see there's lots of different things that you can choose from. Okay, so you come down here and there's all sorts of things that you can choose from. So at the bottom there, you've got a web page is just disappearing off the list there. We've got unpublished work. Okay, you've got things like a report, you've got podcast. Okay, so have a look and see what best fits your, the item that you want to add. I actually put quite a lot under this report heading, because if you think about it, what you need to be thinking about is, okay, I need to add this to EndNote and I need it to generate in my reference list at the end of my writing. Okay, and with a report, the report format's quite flexible. So as long as you think, well, I need an author and a year and a title, and maybe a report number, or I put a web address, and I can do all of that under the report heading. So even if it's something like a podcast, or maybe it's could be a company financial report or a report from a charity, they all fit quite well under the report heading. I work quite a lot with the medical school, and they have a lot of protocols and a lot of guidelines that you get from the NHS and from places like NICE. So again, that type of thing I would tend to put under the report heading. Okay, I'm not going to fill the whole template in because that takes too long. But what I did want to do is just show you the author field. Okay, so when you enter authors into the library, it does want you to do it in a particular way. So if I enter myself as an author, you can see there I've put in Johnson and he's gone, oh, actually, we've got a Johnson already in the account. Are you JN Johnson? No, I'm not. Okay, so I carry on typing, so I can do that. Okay, and that's my name entered. Okay, if I've got a second author, okay, I can put them in. So this is one of my colleagues. Okay, so we can put the second colleague, and just to be fair to my colleague, I'll put the second one in. Oh, there we go. So they're my two colleagues who help with EndNote. So we've written this marvelous paper for the library, and we've had it published, and we're adding it into EndNote. So the reason these names are all in red is because they are new entries into the database, and EndNote is creating an index on the author field. Okay. I've just used initials today. As I said, I work mainly with the sciences, and that's their convention. If you are in one of the arts or humanities faculties, what you might find is that you would put the full name in, and that's fine. So whatever your convention is, that is what you would do. Okay. So it may be that myself and my colleagues here have written something for the library, for the university, but actually the university said, no, actually you're not the authors. Warwick is the author of the document. Okay, so again, this may affect some of you, but not all of you. So it may be that you don't have individual personal authors. What you have is a corporate author. Okay, now what you can see here is when I've added in the individual name, I've got surname, family name, Johnson, comma, and then the initials. Okay, that comma is really important because the comma tells EndNote that that's the information. Johnson is the information that needs to go into the in-text citation. Okay, and then if I were to fill in the year, etc., it would know what to do with that. If I'm entering this as a corporate author, so we're not the authors, we get deleted. Oh, that's a bit slow. Can we go a bit quicker than that? There we go. Okay, if the author is the University of Warwick, what I have to do here is put a comma at the end of the organisation name. Okay, and then it knows that it's University of Warwick that needs to be in my in-text citation, and it knows that University of Warwick is the author that needs to be in my reference list. Okay, if you miss the comma off, then it tries to work out what the surname might be, and what you'll probably end up with is something along the formatting of U.O.W. Okay, it's one of those things that you don't spot straight away necessarily. You spot it later on when you're nearly finished and you just want to hand in, and then you spot something wrong with your reference list. It is fairly it's easier to resolve in the desktop version than it is in the online version, but it does mean that you've got to go back into your document, you've got to edit that reference and then update the changes. Okay, so it just can be a bit of a pain. So if you can remember, just put the comma after the organisation name. It's one of our frequently asked questions. Very easy for us to answer. We know you're only halfway through the sentence, and we know what's happened. So if you think you're going to be using corporate author, if you can try to remember to put the comma there, then you're doing yourself a favour. Okay, so that's entering references manually. I'm just going to leave that there. So I'm just going to close that. EndNote isn't big on asking you whether you want to save stuff. It just assumes that you know what you're doing. But on this occasion, it is going to ask me. So no, I don't want to save those changes. Okay, that's it. So that's sending references across, exporting references, and then there's also the manually adding references. Okay, so to add existing PDF files to your library, okay, so you've maybe got PDFs already saved onto your hard drive somewhere, and you want to add those into your EndNote account. What you need to do, if you come up to the top again under File, and then you've got this option here to import. Okay, so click on there and then go to File. So that's for an individual single PDF. You could try putting all your PDFs into one folder and updating it as a folder. So you click on the option there for file, okay, and then you need to go away and choose the file that you want to add. So I've got various things here, so I'm going to select that PDF there, and then you've got this option here for import option. Okay, now because I used PDF earlier on, that's what it's defaulted to, but it will be the default is something different. I can't remember what it is at the moment, but what you need to do is come into this import option here and choose this option for PDF. Okay, so that was already selected for me. That's all you need to do. Click on the option then to import, and it will add that reference to your library. Okay, so there we go. So that has been added. Can you see there you've got a paperclip icon? Yeah, so that shows you that the PDF has been added. If I click on that title there we go, and you can see it's displaying there on the right hand side. So that's great. That's a PDF you've already got, and you can add it straight into the account. If I go back and do another one, it doesn't always work. And it does depend on the metadata in the PDF. So if I go back into import file, okay, and I'm going to choose another one. So I'm going to choose this one here. Okay, it's still a PDF, that's fine. Click on the option there to import. And can you see this time what's happened is that the PDF has gone across. We've got the paperclip icon there, but I haven't got any other information. It's not stripped out the metadata. So I've got the full text, but I haven't got anything else under the summary here. Okay. So what you can do at that point is if you go back to say something like Google Scholar, find the reference and export the reference into EndNote like we did earlier on. What it should do is it should match that reference with the full text that's already there and put them together. Okay, I tested that a little bit and it seemed to work, but I would do it one by one and just test and make sure that it's doing it correctly. Or you'd have to come back into this edit option here, and you're going to have to manually add in all the data. So it might be worth just trying to see if you can find the article in Google Scholar, send that across, and hopefully EndNote will work its magic and put the two together. Okay, so that's adding them in via PDF. Okay, before I go back into Word, I just wanted to show you how you compress the library. So I said at the beginning, you've got those two files. You've got the ENL, the library file, and you've got the data file as well. So if you come back here under file, can you see down here you've got the option there to compress library, and then you've got this slightly different file extension here. Okay, so if I click on there, it will ask you what you want to do. Okay, so I just do this, and then you see it brings you back to here. Your file extension is slightly different, and then you give it a name, but that will have pulled the two files together for you. Okay, I'm not going to do that now in case it does something weird and wonderful. So I'm going to cancel that, but that is how you do it. Okay, and that's a really good way of keeping a backup copy of your library, because if you're on your own computer or you're on a university computer but you're not even on the network drive, then you know, if something goes wrong with your library, then there's no backup. So you need to make sure you're keeping a backup. So I'm just going to cancel that. Okay, so that's adding in the compressed library. Okay, right, these are the references that I'd already got into my account for climate change, and these are the references that I've put in during this session for higher education. So you can see where we've pulled across the PDF of the papers where we've already got the PDFs stored locally. But what you might be thinking, well, that's great, but I've got these 13 references from higher education and I haven't got any full text. I'd like to know whether I can get the full text. Okay, so there is a feature within EndNote where you can ask EndNote to go away and look for the full text of the papers. Okay, so what you need to do is select the papers. So again, I'm just going to do Control A again. Okay, so they're the papers that I would like EndNote to go and have a look to see whether we've got full text access or not. And then can you see the icon here? Okay, it says search the web full text documents for the selected references. So I click on there, and what it will do, it will go away and it will look to see whether we have full text access. So you can see there, that second one there is just indexed it and it's put the little paperclip icon next to it. So we just need to let that run through. What's happening here, you've got this option here there to find full text. So it's found another one somewhere there. If I scroll down there, so you can see there, that's what it's doing. So it's now searching for the PDF. Okay, now I ran this earlier on. I think what it's done, it's accumulated the find full text. So I think that where it's saying it's found 13, I think that's a combination of this group and the asthma group. If I just scroll down here, there we go. So you can see here, it's only found 2 papers. It's found Rose and it's found CADA there as full text paper. You can see if I click on that one for CADA, the full text of the paper is there. Okay, so that hasn't worked terribly well. Earlier on, I played with this group, the asthma group, and I did exactly the same thing. If you look there, can you see all the paper clips that are listed there? So it did much better with that search. I always think when you use this find text feature, if you get anywhere near 50% of the references pulled back as full text PDFs, then you're doing pretty well. So you can see there it worked really well in my asthma group, but the one that we've just looked at for higher education, it hasn't done quite so well. Now, part of that actually is because you can see this one is a book section. I've got some conference papers here, so it would struggle to find those. So we've got slightly different set of references in this folder. But that's how you can go away and find the full text of see if we can get the full text of the paper. Now, when you do that, there's a preference that you can change in EndNote to improve the chances of finding the full text. So again, what you've got to do, you've got to come back up here to edit and then come under here for preferences. And this is where you can customize EndNote to your heart's content. There's lots of different things that you can do. I'm not going to run through them. We looked at display fields earlier on. Okay, so that's a different way of setting up those headers across the top of the middle column. Okay, I want to come here to find full text. Now, what you will find is that as a default, when you come to here, those 4 boxes will be ticked. What you need to do is that you need to add this web address into the open URL path. Okay, and what that does is when EndNote it identifies you as a Warwick person. So when when EndNote goes out looking for the full text, it goes to the publisher page and it knocks on the door and it says, "I'm coming from Warwick. Can I have full text access to this paper, please?" Okay, and if the publisher is happy to do that and recognises you as a Warwick person, it'll go, "Yeah, that's fine," and it will allow EndNote to take the full text paper and add it into the EndNote account. Okay, obviously sometimes we don't have a subscription to the journal, so we're not going to get the full text. Other times it will go to the publisher website. We do have full text access, but the publisher won't talk to EndNote. Okay, so although the full text is available, EndNote can't grab it for you and pull it back into your EndNote account. So that's why some searches are better at pulling back the full text than others. It just depends where the content is and where it's available from. Okay, so you need to add that web address into your EndNote edits and preferences and find full text. Now, if I just cancel that, if I go back to the library homepage and go back to our EndNote page, this is where we started off. If I come down and go to EndNote desktop, okay, that information is just here. Okay, and you can see there, that's the web address that you need to add in. Okay, we looked at the different version of the Harvard file. Okay, so at the top here, the very first bullet, this is the file that you need to download. Okay, so you download that file. If you're on a Windows machine, then you need to go to the C drive and find the x86 program files, okay, and then drop it into the styles folder. If you're on a Mac, then you need to go to the applications, EndNote, and then the styles folder. So you copy and drag that file into the styles folder on your program files, and then the next time you go into Word or EndNote, the Warwick Harvard style will be there. Okay. So I'm going to finish off with going back into Word. So at the beginning of the session, we looked at how to add a reference in. So just to remind you, okay, you come over to Insert Citation, and this time I could decide, oh, I'm going to have a look for my references to do with higher education, okay, and I'm going to take, let's take that one. I can double click that one, and that will add that into the paper now. Okay, something's gone wrong here because I've got conference proceeding there. That shouldn't be there. So I will need to go back and just see what's happened there. Let me just try another one. The danger of live demos. Let's try that one and see what happens there. There we go. That one's okay. That's come across, and you can see there you've got the volume, the issue, and the page number. So EndNote's not 100% perfect. Watch out for things like that. That rarely happens, actually, I have to say. It's a long while since I've seen it do that. But you know, it's not 100% foolproof. Even when you've generated the reference list, you will need to proofread it, okay, and make sure that it makes sense. And that maybe that you have to do a little bit of tweaking, a little bit of editing, okay, but nothing like to the level as if you were doing this all by hand and doing it manually, okay. But you can see there it's added the references in, okay, and they are in alphabetical order because I'm using this Harvard style of referencing. So a couple of things that you might need to do once you've got to this stage and you're writing up. You may have added some references in here, okay, and you might decide that you want to delete a reference. So you read back, you do a bit of rewriting, and you think, oh, actually, no, I don't need that reference there anymore. You can just highlight the reference, delete it, and then use this update citation and bibliography, and it will shuffle everything around and everything will disappear as you want it to. That's not the way I would recommend that you do it. What I would recommend that you do is, if I decide I wanted to get rid of this reference here, highlight it, you come back over here to edit and manage citations. Now this is a terrible screen, and I was really hoping they were going to update it, but they haven't. So we're stuck with it, but it's a terrible screen. What I want to do here, this is the reference, click on that drop down, and what I want to do is I want to remove the citation. So I'm just going to take this citation out of the Word document. I'm not taking it out of EndNote, okay? I'm going to remove that citation, click on OK, it disappears here and it disappears from there as well, okay? And that reference is completely gone. The reason I recommend you go through that process and not just highlighting and deleting is that when you pull a reference from EndNote into Word, it brings with it something called a field code, which is a little bit like the HTML on a web page. It's embedded in the back of the document. You can't see it, but it's the coding that EndNote and Word use. If you just delete and then update the document, there is a danger that it doesn't delete the field code. So the field code is still embedded in the document. And what can happen is that at some point, it might suddenly just find the field code and think, oh, hang on, there's a reference here. And it might put the reference back into your document, okay? And generally what happens, it puts it into the reference list and not the in-text citation. And then we can't find out whereabouts in the document it actually is, okay? So it can cause all sorts of problems, and it can corrupt the document. So going through edit and manage citation takes a bit longer, it's a few extra clicks, but it will remove that field code. So once that reference has gone, it's gone. There's no chance of it coming back, okay? Less chance of your document getting corrupted. So that's why I would recommend that you do it. So that's deleting a reference there. If you, while you're writing, you may have, you know, some key references that you're going to add throughout the document. They're going to be threaded throughout. So if that happens, okay, and I come back here and I want to use that Taylor reference again, I've got Taylor here and I've got Taylor there, so I've got it in twice, okay, but it's only appeared once in my references because EndNote knows that it's the same reference, okay. Equally, if I decide I need to delete one of these references, do that. If I want to delete this one here, Taylor, if I remove that citation, okay, Taylor's still here, so my reference is still here, okay. If I get rid of that one, then it will disappear from my reference list, okay. So that's how that works. So it's keeping everything in sync. Yeah. Some of you may, you know, along the way you're probably going to make a direct quote. So if this is a direct quote, in terms of referencing, what you need to do is you need to provide the page number of where that quotation came from, because the person reading your work might want to go back, look at the original and read that quote in context to make sure that it, you know, that you've interpreted it correctly, okay. So you do need to put page numbers in if you are making direct quotes. If you're making direct quotes, then you start thinking about your note-taking technique. EndNote doesn't know what page number this quote came from, okay? All it knows is the detail about the actual reference. So you're going to have to tell EndNote what page number you want citing. So when you are taking your note, whether you do that by hand or whether you do it online, if you make a direct quote, make sure you make a note of the page number as well, okay? Nothing worse than having to go back and trek through something that you've already read just to find a page number. So if I want to add a page number here, I highlight the in-text citation, back into edit and manage, and then can you see here we've got these boxes. Now you might be quite reasonable in thinking, all right, okay, I'm going to add a page number, I'm going to add it to the pages box, okay. You can do that. What I would actually recommend is that you add it to the suffix box. The reason being is that for some reason not all of the referencing styles recognise the information that's in the pages box. So if you use the Harvard style, the Warwick Harvard style, put your page numbers into the pages box, fine, it will read it. But if you then subsequently decide to switch from that style to a different style, which you can do, if the new style doesn't recognise the information in the pages box, your page numbers have disappeared. Okay, so if you choose a reference style and you check this out and the page numbers display and you're never going to move from that referencing style, then that's fine. Use the pages. You can use the pages box. If you think you might be switching between different referencing styles, I would play safe and use the suffix box. Then you need to think about how you want your page numbers to display. So it could be something as simple as a colon and then the number, and that would look like that. Okay, or we could use this one and I could come back into suffix and I could decide I'm going to do a comma space p dot and then do the page number. So whatever I put in that suffix box or the pages box, I have to put in all the punctuation. Okay, whatever I put in there will appear after the reference. And again, check with your department as to what their convention is or what their preference is for how you display the page number. Okay, so that's displaying the page number. Some of you may want to cite the reference at the beginning of a sentence rather than at the end. Okay, so this depends entirely on your writing style. Okay, I do this a lot. So I might insert a citation. Let's choose that one and hope it formats properly. So I've got divit, there we go, argues that, ... Okay, so that doesn't work because I've got divit in the bracket and that's the start of the sentence. So that grammatically that doesn't work. Okay, so what I actually need to do is come down here, go back and repeat that, choose divit again, and rather than just double clicking on the reference there to insert it, if you come down here to the bottom, you've got this insert option, and hopefully you can see that. You've got different ways in which you can insert the reference. So I want to insert and display as author and then the year in brackets. So I'm going to do that. That works. Okay, so just little things like that. So hopefully that's given you an overview with using it with Word. Final thing to say is that this document here is linking with your EndNote account. So it's kind of like a live document. If you need to submit, if you're going to submit this document online in any way, say through Tabular, then what I would really recommend that you do is that you create a plain version of this text. And what that does is that breaks the link between Word and EndNote. So every time I click on one of these references, okay, you can see there the highlights, and that's because it's getting that information from my EndNote account. You might also find that here I've got this problem here where I've got conference proceedings, so I could say, well, I'm just going to get rid of that. Now, with the desktop version, sometimes that will stick, okay, and that's fine. Other times, any of those changes will get overwritten, okay, and I've not really worked out when it does and when it doesn't, to be honest. So I've got rid of that conference proceedings bit there, but because I've already done that in Word and I haven't done it in EndNote, when I close this document and reopen it, it might revert that change back, okay, because it's pulling this information from my EndNote account. So what I would actually recommend that you do is put your document together, pull in all your EndNote references. When you're happy with it and you've got it all how you want it to be, and all you've got left is maybe some edits to make to your reference list, what I would probably do at that point is then convert this document to a plain text, and it will tell you that it's going to create a second copy, but that it will strip out all the EndNote markers, okay? So if I do that, it creates a second copy of my document, okay, and now when I click on those in-text citations, nothing happens. So this document is no longer connected to EndNote, okay? And then if I do need to make any changes here into my reference list, I can do that, and I know that they will stick, okay? And then this is a version that you need to update online or update through Tabular, okay? So just be a bit careful if you do lots of editing. So you can see here it has held that change under conference papers, but if I if you do lots of editing here, you might find that when you then save the document and reopen it, when you convert it, it might not hold those changes. So I would always err on the side of caution, note where you want to make any edits, convert to a plain text, and then edit there. If you convert to a plain text and then you decide, oh, actually I need to add another reference in, or I'm going to take something out, then you've got to go back to your original document, which you'll still have, make the changes in there because that's the live document that's communicating with EndNote, and then convert it to a plain text again. So make sure when you convert to plain text that literally the only thing left to do is to edit some of the potentially edit some of the information in the reference list, and then that should be okay. So I hope that's been useful. I'm just going to go back to our EndNote page to finish off. We've been through a lot. It can seem quite confusing. So what I would say is have a go, see how you get on. Any questions at all, then do get back to us, okay? And you can email us on that web address there, and we can either, sometimes we can answer by email. Other time, we're quite happy to set up a Teams meeting with you, or if we're on campus, you can come in and meet us, and we can go through it with you. But please don't struggle with it. If you've got any questions or you think something's not working, then come back to us, okay? There's no point sitting and struggling and getting really frustrated with it. Come back and ask for help. That is what we are here for. Okay, thank you very much.